And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello, and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And 100 Watts and a Wire is the intersection of life and amateur radio. Whether you're a new ham or an experienced op looking for your people, that's so important. We have to find our people in this hobby because it's so diverse, which is awesome. But people are into different things, as we know. We're here to provide you some entertainment, some community, and the best information that we can pass on. And look who it is. Look who I found. It's Steve, W7 UDI. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Christian. How's it going?
Oh, my God. You know how it's going. I have so much that I've had 5 days off, and it has been a ham-filled. I don't know how I've gotten away with it. Frankly, I have no idea how I've managed to get away with it. But it started. Oh, let's bring in our boy Scotty too. We'll bring him in here as well. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, what's up, guys?
KC3BXN. He's keeping an eye on Zoom call-ins. We've got a link for the Zoom call-ins, and he's also keeping an eye on our chat here. But and one ear on the conversation. That's why I hired a very expensive sound engineer, is because he can listen to several things and keep an eye on most things until I ask him.
I'm like a sonic octopus.
Yeah, something like that until I need something. And then he's like, huh? And I'm, damn, again? What? I was just looking at the new Adam and Eve's catalog for Christmas gifts. You know, that's kind of how it goes.
Reading the Browns mailbox.
Yeah, he now receives their mail. Anyway, we're just all kidding, but we do have a call-in. We'll take questions if you have them tonight. Put a Q in front of them and drop them in the chat. We may take some live calls here in a bit. Certainly as we go into live coverage of our Sunday evening net, that's when we break away from our podcast listening audience, but you're always invited to join us Sundays at 6 o'clock Central Time on YouTube as we record this load of cobblers, as my Irish friend would say, this load of cobblers. But anyway, nice to see you. And let me tell you about getting back. Tonight, on this episode, we're going to be talking about some test gear, some things to think about, and really kind of gearing it toward the newer ham, letting you know some things you want to think about. And I once heard a man, and I'm spacing on his name, but he talked about investing your money in test equipment. He's invest your money, and we know him too. He's on Ham Nation. What's his name? He's in Oregon. This is like Pitchers. What is it? Pitcher. What's his name? He's in Oregon. You know who he is. Who's the ham in Oregon?
You're talking about Randy, K7AGE.
That's right. Thank you for picking me up. Randy once said he believes in buying test equipment. This was many years ago, and that's where he likes to invest his money. And I think now, with the decade in, I agree. I think that's a good choice. We'll talk about some options tonight here on the podcast or whenever you're listening to this. But let's go over some interesting, fun things throughout our week. It's been a 5-day Thanksgiving week. We put the lights on here. I'm told they're not they're festive and they're not tacky. But here you go. If you're watching. We've got them up nonetheless, and I think they're going to just ride with us now that we're
no RFI from them either.
Nothing. They're just perfect lights that we have here hanging in our studios. Wednesday, I break off. I think it was Wednesday. Could have even been Tuesday. I did my first POTA, and I activated the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, and this was a trick, you guys. And I've activated this thing twice. It doesn't show up on the POTA websites because I think POTA came along after the National Parks on the Air program took place in 2016. Well, I had forgotten. Things have changed down there a little bit, and parking is just a mother. And I'm like, I just need to get on the Arch grounds, you know. And I circled around, and in fact, I was posting on our Discord that I think I'm going to pull the plug on this activation because there's nowhere for me to. It would have been a quickie, like I'd have been set up in like the Hyatt hotel parking, you know, something that wouldn't have been good. I was waiting for somebody to come knock on my window. I tried it, looped around. And I finally found a spot, and I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to do it. And the band conditions were not great. I ended up working 11 stations on this morning. I'm talking like 9:30 in the morning. I don't know. But it worked. And I was like, cool. And the next thing you know, it became very addictive, guys. I'm like, let me look and see. I got one for good measure because somebody in Discord was like, you should get more than 10. 10's an official activation.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let me get 11. I got an 11. Like, cool. And I did it mobile. I think activating the park, this particular one at the Arch, it's a national landmark. It's, if you go up in the Arch, you're taking your shoes, your belts. It's like an airport, highly guarded. So I think mobile is the way to do this particular one. The first two times I did it. Yeah, I did it. Then I got a weird hair. I went off and I went up to I was like, let me go have lunch at the art museum. It was a beautiful day and I'm sitting out there looking, and I posted more pictures up on Discord. I'm like, look at me. I'm one of these guys now. I'm overlooking and having my sandwich here. And then I thought, I got 3 hours to kill. I was in the city because my daughter was still in school. And so I could go over and do the Scott Joplin house. Like, Scott Joplin is a historic site. He lived there in the early 1900s. It was recently robbed, and they closed it for a bit, right on a city street. But I went, and I pulled right up front another image I posted on Discord, like, I'm going to do it. I'm right here. I can't be on the sidewalk, but this is as close as I can get. Nothing. Nobody heard anything. Actually, Don in our group, one of our net control operators, he heard me. And it was one of those yelling ones where we're like, like, what was that? Did you get it? Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm. And nobody else. I think it was just a weird prop game. So I was riding high, like Sinatra says, and then I was shot down in the afternoon. But I will say,
at least you got the Arch done.
I did get
You
it
got that
done.
activated.
The POTA website, they've come a long way since once they first started. It used to, be an individual person you used to have to send them to, and I think that might change a little bit. They were all volunteer. Now they've got something online where you just upload it to that. It was a piece of cake, Steve, and I thought, man, where can I go next? So that's how the beginning of the week was, and I don't think I could have put any other antennas up. Both of these spots were like a drive up to it, and that's it. And maybe the Grant house. There's another Ulysses S. Grant place that I have activated. But anyway, so I got the bite for the POTA, and it was like so easy. I uploaded it, and the next day, bloop, all the information. They've really got their act together over at the POTA. Any thoughts on that, Steve-O?
No, that sounds great. That sounds like a blast. So I'm looking forward to doing a few out here. So we got a few parks around.
I'm sure you do.
Stop and visit and set up and do the same thing, the mobile setup, and see what happens.
Oh, we got another story. We're going to double back to this, but let me ask Scotty. You kind of got into the POTA. Was that like your first like real interest in the hobby?
Yeah, actually, some of my first HF was with POTA. So, the guy that started POTA, Jason, I forget his call sign, off the top of my head. He's in Maryland, and Jason
W3X AAX or W3AAX maybe. Is that him?
He's a Maryland boy, and so it kind of started here. And some of the early top POTA guys and gals were into it, and I kind of stumbled on that just as I got my general, and it was pretty small, and you spotted yourself on the Facebook page, and there wasn't a whole lot of users, and it was a lot of fun. I got into it and kind of popped my HF cherry with the POTA. It was fun. We have the park that actually backs right up to the Browns. Is actually a POTA park, and so I'd go up there a lot and then go camping out in Western Maryland. Did the C&O Canal, and so it was fun. I haven't done it in a while. I need to get back out there.
So you're saying you were camping at the Browns?
No, I did a day activation at at the park.
Because right on the back,
Oh,
the
an
back
Patapsco
hourly,
side.
an hourly
I think it's
activation. Okay, got
K
it.
1388. I think. Is the
So let me give you some context,
Yes, sir.
so it's not so inside. The Browns Hotel is a little bit sketchy, and they rent it by the hour. Let's say it's not too far from where Scotty is, I suppose. And I don't know why he knows it so well, but apparently they've got hourly rates or whatever.
It's a
But on the
landmark.
back side, yeah, it's a national treasure. On the back side of it, it's like the Arch, something like that. On the back side, what? It's a forest, right? It's a national
It's
forest. or something.
Patapsco Valley State Park. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you just stayed in bed, threw it out the window, and were like,
Mostly.
got it. Penicillin shot. Got it. So now you all know what the Browns is if it ever comes up. But Scotty's saying they may tear it down. But there you go.
They're looking to turn it into condos.
All right. They want that land. They want that land. Steve,
Right against the park.
we went live on, I think it was Friday. I'm getting my days are blending
Friday,
in now. We did the Black Friday looking around just to see what sort of deals were out there. And it turns out that you saw something you liked. What'd you end up doing?
Well, I pulled the trigger on FT891. It was on sale at HRO, and I think Gigaparts had it on sale. And so I pulled the trigger after we got done with the live stream. I made a 5-minute phone call to HRO, and done deal. So it's on its way.
Nice.
And everybody is an enabler in the
It
Discord.
was
Like
bad in the
I'm
Discord
thinking,
group.
like everybody's just do it. And Pastor Joe is
it,
leading
do
the
it.
charge. Just do it now.
Just do it now.
Like, aren't I supposed to feel some guilt, Pastor Joe? Do it. Do it now. Do it. You need it.
Oh, it was bad. It was-
It's like, wow, okay. And I didn't because, and at $600 though, that's good. And I think that
Yeah.
you're thinking of using it for your mobile, right?
Work truck. I'm gonna probably set it up to where I can go between my one of my trucks, my personal truck, and the work truck. So I kind of have an idea on a mounting situation. So once I get it, and need the only disadvantage of the 891 is you need an external tuner, but I got a perfect tuner for it. Well, a couple of them, but I got one set aside, and I go, I think this will work. It's a manual tuner, and we'll just tune by ear and go from there.
Cool. All right. Well, I look forward to that because I think HF Mobile is fun because I like to listen. I don't always operate mobile, but I've had mobile now for a couple of years, took it out for a little bit and then put it back in because 2 meters was just not happening. I'm like, this is great. I'll use 2 meters. That'll be fine. I'm putting around town or whatever, and not enough to keep it going. It was just scanning and scanning and scanning. And there are people there at different times and they have scheduled nets, but I'm like, I just like the randomness of HF sometimes, and I might put 80 minutes in the truck each day. So anyway, it suits me. I'm looking forward to you getting in there, Scotty. You're not an HF mobile guy. You did it, and then you were like, nah.
Yeah, it's I with my drive drive to work is about an hour each way, and I don't know. I guess I never could get the noise, my ignition noise, sort of tamed. And I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but it was just kind of noisy, and didn't really have a spot to put an antenna. I had a Hustler resonator on there. I think it was a 20-meter one, it's just cruising down the road. I was just constantly scanning the frequencies while I was trying to drive, and it just got a little distracting. So
yeah, I have
I pulled it out.
ICOM 7100, and I just turn. I'm driving and I'll just turn, you know what I mean? I'll just kind of, it's not, I think making contacts on HF and mobile can be pretty tricky. And even when I was stopped and at the arch activating, I'm left-handed. So I'm always kind of reaching over, into the middle armrest section to try to get some things going. I could move over in that far right seat. For this one, I thought I was going to be asked to get the stepping down the road. So I just stayed in there, kept the truck running. It was a colder day than it's been. So, being a lefty, but definitely taking contacts on the fly on the road I don't think I would just be like, if I could remember giving it back to you, cool. If not, I'm not going to be able to log this. or send me a note is probably what I'd say. But yeah, I get it. That's for sure. All right. If you have a question, you can put a Q in front of it, drop it into the chat. We going to give you a little bit of history now. Who says you can't learn something about radio, Steve? Come on. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was first broadcast locally in New York City in 1932. The parade started itself in 1924. On December 1st, 1966, radio time signal WWV moves from Greenbelt, Maryland to Boulder, Colorado. Don't know why that move happened. Maybe a central time zone? I don't know, but that'd be interesting to look that up. And started in Maryland. I was a little surprised to see that when Scotty put that in the run a show tonight. But there you go. That's what's going on in history. There were some other things, I'm sure some legendary great broadcasts, but they were not all noted and they've been released to the ether. Scotty's here with some events. We're looking at December now. It's hard to believe, but look, Santa Net's already happening. We are over Thanksgiving weekend, just about. Scotty, what's going on in December? We must be out of events by now, right?
Well, there's a big one coming up next weekend. December 2nd through the 4th is the ARRL 160 meter single side band contest.
Yeah.
That's your
Just
160.
in time for you.
Love that.
Lowe's is 160. So that contest is happening. There's another contest, the FT Roundup. This is an FT8, FT4 mode only contest happening next weekend, December 3rd and the 4th. And a couple special event stations. Also, the weekend of December 3 and 4 is the Skywarn Recognition Day, put on by the National Weather Service. Whiskey 9 Delta is the special event call there. What else we got going? Oh, celebration of the 21st Amendment. Drink them up. They're repealing prohibition. There's a special event station, Whiskey 8 Alpha, is going to be running a station from a brewery in Ohio. You can find out more about that at breweries-on-the-air.com.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Whiskey 8 alcohol. I like it.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's Breweries on the Air. I think they're calling it Breweries.
You think they would have got Whiskey 8 Bravo, but alcohol is good too.
Yeah, you got to take what you can get.
Exactly.
A 100 Watts and a Wire is proud to be community supported. You can buy us a coffee, and it's easy enough to do. Just check out the link on your screen or in the description. We have a couple of new people to thank this week. Let's see if I can get this going. All right, get off of there. So we'd like to thank a couple of folks who became members, and becoming a member means you qualify for a 20-meter homebrew double bazooka made by W7UDI. Jeff Carson said, yes, sir, I'll do that. Farmer Rex, Kilo Echo Zero, Mike Hotel Juliet. He's been a supporter for at least 2 or 3 years. And when you've got the American family farmers supporting you, we have to go out there and buy some corn. That's what we need to do, Steve. It's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Go to buymeacoffee.com/myname. You'll find it. And there's several different ways that you can give and you can become a supporter. Some people like to pay all one chunk. Some people like to do monthly. Some people like to just buy a cup of coffee. It's easy. They don't take a lot of money from us. It's one thing about the Patreon that I didn't like. 12% of your donation. I was like, oh, that's not a good deal. So we're not doing that. But and now let's talk about, let me take off sexy time here. Can I tell you that yesterday in talking about a 20-meter double bazooka, now I got to talk about it just a little bit. We're going to talk about some gear, some test gear. I get a box. The camera at the door and bells are going off. Jingling things. I got traps set in the woods because I'm paranoid that people will come in here and I have to. No, it's not like that. But yeah, the post person came in and the box is at the door. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. I'm not expecting anything, really. I rush up there. And it's a box from W7UDI from the Pacific Northwest. And I'm like, grab it, and I'm hunched over running and looking over my shoulders like somebody might be coming after me. I'm not that paranoid, but this was fragile. sensitive stuff in this box. So I wanted to make sure nobody was hiding out waiting because it wasn't due to come yesterday.
Fragile.
It was fragile and at least, precious materials. It's supposed to come Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up, and I'm the 1 and the 2 and the 3 antennas, and the whole rest of the weekend changed. And it's the rain's coming, and it's like 42 degrees. I'm like, this is the perfect temperature for this. This is perfect. I must hang this antenna. And anyway, talking about the 20-meter double bazooka that Steve made, he's going to make one of these. By request, Steve, Mark has asked you to make a video showing how you did it, because if he can figure out how you did it, he might make one or two and then donate one to the show to give away. And I'm like, sounds like a good give thing. But let me tell you, friends, I've got a new 160 antenna up there. I've got a 40 meter and a new 20 meter. And they are so sexy. I spent most of the morning before anybody got up. The sun came up. I was sitting there looking at it. I'm looking at the horizon. Like, come on, old girl, just give me a little crack of light. I just need to see something. And then the sun came up, and I ran out there like a fiend, crazy. I'm looking over my back, like a crazy man.
Let's go.
And
Go time.
I'm sending texts. We should have a portion of the show where Steve reads the text. Well, I can't read them all because some of them are just too not suitable for any audience. But it's like
can we condense it into 1 hour show?
it's a new spin-off. Just the text.
I'll start. No, just kidding.
Yeah, let me go first. Hey, MFer. It all starts. I wrote him this morning. I was like Farley's JoJo the Circus Monkey. I was all riled up, and I wrote to Steve. Like, look. I'm like, oh no, it's like 5 a.m. there. No, it's hit send anyway. But so he was up, and I didn't even think about it, but it wasn't super crazy. But I'm like, what do I put up first? What should I put up first? What should I do? Here's my reading. Crazy person. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, here's how all your double bazookas, like if I could fill all the trees with double bazookas, right? But I sent them home to Daddy. Here's how they're performing, your creations. And we looked over the numbers, and everything is looking great. We got a little touch up maybe to do because different places, different areas are going to do different things. So I may shorten a little bit on one of them, but anyway. All I got to say is it is just so nice. The double bazooka antenna is so well made that he makes. They make them well on the market too, but he's figured out a way to really condense it and protect the centerpieces. Well built. People who become members in this month, we're running out actually here. So if you've signed up to become a member between now and December 1st, you're going to go in the drawing to win one of these antennas. And I hope you will, and I hope you win. But Steve, thank you so much. You've gave me, I was just saying to myself, I haven't really had to do any antenna work in a while. Like I haven't really done anything. And I'm like, knock wood, because that's a great situation to be in. Mm-hmm. 3 at once. He's like, let me change your fortune, MF. Try this. Now's some work for you. And I'm like, man, my hands
you
hurt.
Want some work? Here's some work.
Here's some work for you.
A few antennas on your lap and see
tune
what happens.
This. How about this 160? Go tune that. I'm up and down the hill. I'm like, remember Price is Right? It's like, I'm going up the hill, back down the hill, up on the hill. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah,
and my
that's
hands
a big
are hurting.
Ass antenna.
It's great. But thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, you are welcome.
It was awesome. I hope you guys will get one. I will put the, if you're watching here tonight, I will put it up on the screen. I would love for you to have it. Steve wants to make the antenna and videotape it and then put it up, to show you guys, let you guys know, or let you guys see how to make it. And then if you're interested in making it the way he makes it, hey, then he's taught you, and you're good to go. Let me move that up off of our Christmas lights. Yeah, that'll be better. All right, cool. So we were talking a little bit. I went on the TikTok, actually. I went to TikTok, and I was like, what do you guys want to deal with? What topics do you want to talk about? And it's not super engaging over there. The people are either watching your 1 minute and flip going on, how you go on the TikTok. But I was like, let's say, it's just swipe, big ass, swipe, another big ass, stop, slow down, go back, go back, that sort of thing. And I'm getting some interesting, it's all interest based, right? So if you spend a couple more seconds on something, it's going to keep feeding it to you. But the hams are finding it slowly. And one of our friends over there was like, how about some test gear? For newer hams. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds kind of cool. I think that's fine. And so I threw it out there to Steve, like, what do you think we should do on this one? And so he came up with his list of potential things to think about. We're not sponsored in any part by any of these companies, but Steve does own some of the stuff. I have a couple of these pieces as well. And so I think let's go through it, Steve, and you can kind of tell us why you dig it. And if you're, you can go back and watch the replay. For our listening audience, all the links are available on the YouTube episode. So they'll all be in the description, all of these links. If you buy any of these things, you don't have to. Then the show will get some pennies on the dollar. It'll help the show, but you don't have to. Just a link. And Steve provided these because he feels that the newer ham could use it. So, Steve, let's start off with number one here. You've got a Comet CN501H2. This is an SWR meter. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of an SWR meter.
Well, it's one way, if you have an SWR meter, is to, when you're putting up your antennas, tuning them and getting your station going. It's another, also another thing is to have it in line, and you can see if something changes throughout the course in the winter, or something happens, like all of a sudden your SWR goes out of, over the top. Then you're like going, holy smokes, what's happened? And so it's a piece of gear, just you can use while operating, or when you're setting up your antenna system. It's the original way that we used to set up our antennas before we had these analyzers that make it just super simple. I have an MFJ version, and we also have it in as a link. It's just this one is good for basically from 160 meters up to 6 meters. So yeah, this is a one that's good for excuse me, for HF. The other thing I like about this particular one is this orange button here is either you set it in peak reading or RMS reading, or average as they call it. So most meters are going to kind of average the reading. So hey Sidecar, I'm not getting 100 watts out of my radio. I'm only seeing 50, 60 watts when I'm talking on it. Well, if you have a peak meter reading, put it into the peak mode, and it will it'll be closer to the 100 watts. So that's another option that not all meters have it, but it's something that you might want to consider. This particular meter is good for, I think, about 3K. So 3 kilowatts, definitely a lot more than what we're authorized, but it's good to have a meter that will go there. So yeah, selected the MFJ, being I had it, and then it's at 158 through Amazon. The Comet was a similar meter, but a little bit cheaper. So kind of give you the option whether you want an MFJ or a Comet. So watt meters come in all forms, and I think I threw in another one that was sent. Yep, that's the MFJ. That's a different one. And then I have this other. This is a diamond, but it's this is geared for 2 meters and above. So when you're getting watt meters, kind of just look at the frequency range that they'll work in. This is basically a VHF UHF one, and it's only good for 200 watts. So, and then if you really want the ultimate, which we didn't put in here, and but this is the gold standard is the Bird 43 watt meter. These are very expensive watt meters, and you change your bands and settings and readings by these little slugs that go in here, and it just goes in there, and then you can read forward power or flip it over, and you can read reverse power. So, but that's that particular watt meter is an overkill, but they make slugs that will be good for 10,000 watts. So,
and they're always. I'm sorry, Steve. I just know that they hold up. They're, if you have one of those, they seem to keep their value and they seem to work.
Oh yeah, mine take a lot of abuse, so it gets banged around and stuff like that. So the next we have up is the MFJ, that basically the first real affordable SWR antenna analyzer, and this particular one, they've gone up in price, but this is, I think, the 259D. So they started off with the 259, then came out with the B model, C model, and now they're at the D model. They've always kind of, improved upon it. And so this is more than, just doing an SWR analyzing. It does a plethora of other features and functions that you can do. You can even, with this particular unit, you could turn around and figure out the length of a piece of coax. You got a piece of coax, you go, I don't know how long it is. It's all coiled up. Well, pull out the analyzer, and it will give you a footage reading on how long that cable is by setting it up and a few measurements. So a great valuable piece of test equipment if you're into building antennas, or if you just build a few, but you're involved with a club or something like that. Even if you're a club, get one of these, and then and loan it out to club members when they're doing antenna projects. But it's a great tool.
That's a bit of a classic too, isn't it, Steve? That's one of the things that MFJ is really known for. That's one of the pieces of equipment that people are definitely trusting. You hear some different things about MFJ. They've got some good things that are good, some things are not so good, but that's been one of those pieces that have held up. I think anyway. That's
held up, and then I have the 269 version, which is the same analyzer, but it also includes the UHF band, so it just gives you some more option. I think this one maybe tops out at 170. I know the earlier ones do. I'm not sure exactly. This one does the 280 kilohertz, 100 to 160 kilohertz, all the way up to 230. So yeah, they brought up the top end a little bit. So now you can do all these new LF bands that we got, analyze antennas there. So, and then there's our favorites is the Rig Expert. I just happened to grab the AA35, which I have here, and found a link. Similar price than the MFJ. Gives you what I like about the Rig Expert, definitely a lot smaller. It gives you a visual representation of the band. You can also export it and import it into some software, and then you can have a nice, pretty presentation on your computer screen and print it out. And so another valuable piece of test equipment, especially if you're making antennas and working on projects like that.
Look at this. A boom. Another
one. That one's good up to 55 megahertz, so a little bit more. It's but they also have ones that they got a unit that's a 4-digit model. That's 4 digits for it, so they go up there and quite 600 megs, and so depending on your needs, Rig Expert probably has the device for you.
And your budget. What else do we have here?
So here, this is a vector network analyzer. So these are a great little tool. There's a lot of info here. It's another tool that you can use to analyze your antennas, and it can do so much more. But what's nice about it, this particular one is the $59 version is on a pretty small screen. So it's about a 3-inch screen, 2. Look at that.
What you got?
Has one.
I got my Nano VNA with a 3D printed case that I got off of eBay for.
There you go. So, and then there's a second version which has a slightly bigger screen, about a 4-inch screen, and that would be this one. Basically the same analyzer, but it just has a bigger screen. And then there's also a software that you load onto a Windows-based machine, and then you can export your findings onto the PC, and I think you can operate it, but don't quote me on it. I haven't tried it. I got one. I have the 4-inch version. It's in my toolbox. It's a great device. I use it to sweep cavities, and haven't used it much with HF antennas because I just kind of use this guy because he's so much simpler and easier to use. The one drawback with the VNA, the instructions is very minimal, but there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that that will show you how to use it up, how to set it up and use it. Once you get it calibrated, it's pretty straightforward. But it's a great piece of test equipment and relatively inexpensive. So
calibration is key
one.
with those nano VNAs.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Oh, it's the calibration is key with those nano VNAs.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going into meters. So we're going to start off with, just bare bones inexpensive. This was a $10 meter. I got one here that's probably a $12, $14 meter. It's pretty straightforward. One of the drawbacks in like a meter like this, if you're doing voltage measurements, you kind of have to figure out what voltage range you're going to be in, because this particular one has 200 millivolts, and then 2000 mil, and then 2 volts, and then or 20 volts, and then 200 volts, and then 300 volts or something like that. So I need my glasses. Mm-hmm. But you got to set the ranges in there and kind of figure out where you're going to be. So on these meters, you end up starting at the highest and then click your way down until you get into the reading. So this next one, similar, just a little bit more. It's auto ranging, and which is kind of nice. And this one was just a relatively inexpensive, not super. What was it, $15 or something like that? It's pretty straightforward. It's great, to have in a toolbox or something. I like, I carry this little red guy in my box, and it's my backup to my backup. It's I've got quite a few meters, and there's always every now and then you just like, oh crap, my other meters are in that case, and I only have this box with me. So now here you get up, stepping it up a little bit. This is Klein. Klein Tools has a pretty nice meter set. It auto ranges, and it does this particular one, AC/DC, current, capacitance, frequency. They're pretty much all kind of got that, and so another one there that you're starting to, and then there's the Fluke 101, which is, I'm a really big fan of the Fluke. It's a industry standard meter, but this guy is tiny. He is really small, and so I'm going to put him next to a Fluke 87. So here's the size. It's but this 101 is a really super basic meter. It just has voltage for AC, DC. You can do millivolts, resistance. It looks like it has some capacitance and then a little frequency counter in there. But what's nice about it, you just set whatever mode you want to put it in. Bit of bang, bit of boom. I mean, this thing is tiny. This is a really small meter. This is the guy. If you're going to invest in a meter, I would, $43. It's a pretty good deal for a little meter.
That's the Fluke 101. All of these selections by Steve, you got 12 of them. They'll be listed in the description down below in the YouTube video, so you can see these products and if anything fits your budget. But he feels that these things are things you should probably have at your disposal as you're analyzing antennas, as you're checking your SWR, and that sort of thing. And we wanted to give you a few price ranges. So that was important to us. Steve, there was a question that came in real time about the watt meters. Which one did you prefer when it came to the MFJ versions? Here's one here, MFJ 870, and the other MFJ was the 874.
874, yeah. Well, the 870, now see, the 874, look at it. It is only good it's a VHF unit. So it's only good for 200 watts. For HF, I go with the 870, which is, it's the all around, it's the 1 meter you use for your HF, and whether you're only running 100 watts or you're running full legal limit, this will cover it all. It's I've been using this one for a number of years. It was one of those that, well, let me give it a try. It's not that expensive, and it's been pretty accurate. It's held up, and it's a great tool. And I left it in line for many years, and then my current setup with the ACOM has a built-in digital watt meter, so I took this guy out of line, and now he's just basically on my bench. So if I'm testing an HF rig on the bench, I got this and this guy. And this is a 1500 watt dummy load. It's and this is very important. We should all of us should have dummy loads. This one is from Veritronics. It's an MFJ company. It's good for 1500 watts, but you see this little graph on the back? 1500 watts is right up here. It's only, you got 10 seconds to pump 1500 watts into it. 750 watts, you got 30 seconds. So, but it's an air-cooled dummy load. It's not that it wasn't that expensive, and it's I keep it in my antenna switch. So, if there's any time I need to do a tune-up, I just select the dummy load, tune up, bit of bang, bit of boom, we're on, and then switch back into the antenna, and off we go. So, this is
there you go. Nice.
But if you're working on a bench, these are the two items you would definitely want to have if you're going to work on a radio: a watt meter and a dummy load. And dummy loads come in all kinds of sizes and shapes. In fact, go like this. Stick your fingers on the connector and key up, and away you go. You could be the dummy load.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's a. Well, thank you for that. That was awesome. We got 12 pieces of technology.
Bang, boom.
Just 11 now. We'll send you that one for free. That one's going to be a
That's
giveaway.
the 101. That's what's nice about the Flukes. They can take a lick.
It bounces. It bounces. All right. Thank you for that. The links are in the description if you're interested in any of those things to think about, and various price ranges. We'll be taking your questions here in just a moment. Put a Q in front of it if you're here with us live. We do this Sunday nights at 6 o'clock. You're all welcome. Our listening audience should come and hang out with us. Scotty is here to tell us about there can't be anything going on in the world of ham radio. Is there a ham fest for real?
They're still turning year round. We got a couple on December 3rd. The Fulton County Amateur Radio Club in Archbald, Ohio is having their Ham Fest. We have the Silver Springs Radio Club Ham Fest in Ocala, Florida. Also December 3rd, Superstition Amateur Radio Club Superfest in Mesa, Arizona. We have, again on the 3rd, Treasure Coast Ham Fest, Vero Beach, Florida. And the Lons Cruise Amateur Radio Club is having their fest on the 4th in Troy, Michigan. So they're still churning them out.
Well, thank you, Scotty, for those wonderful ham fests that are going on. We're taking questions now. We will ask Steve. We'll all chime in if we can help you at all with any of these questions. Put a Q in front of it. We've got some that we've collected through email, YouTube, Tickety Talks, all the places that we pull from. But if you're here with us in real time, we'll take care of that. Stephen Wood, he has a question. He said, I'm getting poor propagation in the evening on 40 meters. Do you think the height of my antenna would be a factor? I'm using a ZS8BKW dipole, only up 15 to 20 feet.
Yeah. That's a factor. But 40 in the evenings here lately has been not the best. So it's your antenna height is not totally substandard, but if you get up a little bit higher, it would help. But the biggest factor that's going to be affecting your propagation is Mother Earth and Mother Nature. It's been kind of sucking it. I was hoping this weekend we'd have some pretty decent propagation on 40, and it hasn't. So
Combination of both height
yeah.
and propagation.
So yeah,
Correct
it's
answer.
you'll be fine for local stuff. At 15 feet, if you're looking at trying to work, one of the coasts, depending on where you're at, some long distance, the height is a factor. But local stuff at 15 feet, you'll be fine.
All right. Thank you for that question. Again, if you have a question, put a Q in front of it. We will pull it and start answering your questions here. Here's one that we received. Can you explain takeoff angle? This is Ron. Can you explain takeoff angle?
Well, takeoff angle is measured basically where the majority of your signal is going to be departing so let me start. So you got a horizontal dipole, and the height above ground has an effect on the angle of your RF. So the dipole is going to radiate out like this, and then it's going to hit the ground and then bounce off of that, and then the majority of your signal is going to go up at an angle. So when you have your antenna low, it's going to reflect like going up. Think about, all right, here's a perfect example. When you're skipping rocks on a body of water, just take a rock. So if you kind of get it down, low, and boom, you get that rock skipped out. It goes out pretty fast. If you kind of come in high, it will just go up. It's like using hitting a golf ball with one wood. It's going to be low and long. With a wedge, it's going to be short and high. So, but in RF, your antenna height, especially when it comes to a horizontal antenna, is going to be affected by the height above ground, and that's going to change the takeoff angle. Typically, if your antenna is about a half wavelength above the ground, the takeoff angle is going to be around 24 degrees, somewhere in that area. Once you get it up higher, it will kind of decrease. But vertical antennas, by the nature of their design and how they have a nice low angle of takeoff angle, and they're like 10 to 15 degrees. And the key is that's how you get the longer distance. So, but for takeoff angle, it's height, frequency, and versus the ground. So, but it's measured in degrees. Basically, so half wavelength, 24 degrees, full wavelength, then it'll be down around 20 or so to 18.
Well, thank you for that question. I hope that helps you. To our friends who are with us today who have a question, Private Ombre, the end, I think, is silent on that. I would not say nombre. He says, does that takeoff angle happen right under the antenna or further distance out, like 50 yards?
It's going to be in the near field of your antenna, and you're like, what the hell is near field, Steve? It's within one wavelength of the frequency you're operating is your near field of your antenna. So it'll happen within the near field.
Survey says.
Ding.
All right, that's a good answer. Okay, let's check another one out. Here's Tom. Which do you prefer, vertical or dipole?
Personally, I've been more on the dipoles. It's just the nature of it. I haven't played much with vertical antennas in the HF realm. I played more on the vertical antennas in the VHF, UHF realm, and that's a whole different animal. And but when it comes to HF, been more on the dipole. But do want to start looking in and possibly building a few vertical antennas and see how well they perform.
I was out I went out to a little peak that reminds me of my father. After he passed, I found a spot on my property. It overlooks this little valley. Put a picture on Discord, but the sun wasn't right, so you couldn't see the depth as well as I do sitting there. My best option was this vertical antenna. And I know so little about these. This was another text that came to Steve over the weekend because I was trying to figure out, like, it's supposed to be a vertical where you don't have to tune anything and the SWR is a promise and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, I have my 7300 out here. What happens if I hit my tuner on a vertical? It feels just like it's a bunch of stacking together type of things that connect and go 13 feet. Is the tuner even doing anything on that?
Yeah,
See,
it'll do it. I mean, it worked.
It was working. It was working.
It was working, yeah.
Like my tuner was like, and it was working, but I was thinking, does it need a wire? This is one of those things after a decade. I don't know much about these vertical antennas and what the wire is doing.
The key with a vertical antenna is you need a counterpoise. And the more radials you can put down, the more efficient it becomes, especially on ground-mounted verticals. Now, if you have it elevated up like 8 feet, where the feed point is, you can get away with 3 or 4 radial wires, and that will be more than sufficient. But when it's ground-mounted, you have to have a lot of radials to make up the ground losses, and so that's the key on verticals is the counterpoise. And there's some antenna manufacturers saying, "Oh no, you don't need a counterpoise on a vertical antenna." It's like, no, that's so wrong. What ends up happening is those antennas that you don't have ground radials on, guess what? Your coax becomes the counterpoise, and now you got RF coming back into your house or into your operating position. So, yeah, be wary of anytime someone says, "Oh no, you don't need a counterpoise." Every antenna needs a counterpoise of one sort or another.
Good to know. A question from Todd. Christian, did you get your activation on the Cliff? I did. I went out and I took this, it's called a full metal jacket. This vertical goes up 13 feet in the air. It's got a big old tripod. It was a little clunky. This was not a soda type activation where you're hiking in. This is what started my mind thinking, you need that. What is it, the 891? Everybody's buying it. Everybody's doing it. You're going to need that thing. Just $600. Go in there, rob the liquor store. It's kind of like, oh, no. Smack myself in the face. No, don't do it. And everybody, Pastor Joe, of all the people, Pastor Joe was like, you could do it. Scotty could turn my voice into Satan, but yeah, you can do it.
I know Pastor Joe's head was spinning. It was
the green vomit, the poltergeist,
pea soup.
And I'm like, no, I can't do it. Help me. Praying. But no,
Todd, if you want to hear the contact that Christian made, I recorded 10 minutes. Well, I posted up 10 minutes of the first 10 minutes. I think it went 13 minutes was the QSO you had. So
you were patient too, because I listened to a bit of that and I was like, whoa, I was down in it, but I was still getting out there. There just was I was really out on a bluff that overlooks the valley, and I'm looking at the trees. I'm like, I can't string a wire in here. And as the next day came and went, I thought maybe an end fed would work. Maybe I could throw the arborist thing over the tree. And I'm like, 66 feet, this is going to be something else. You know what I mean? You mess around, you're playing with ropes, you slip, you're going off the side of the hill. I can't do that. And I had
that rope might save your ass too. So
I had my baby girl with me, right? And she's doing everything. Like she's going around and she's she's going down a little bit over on the side. And I'm like, between the QSOs, my baby, don't go that way. Don't come back this way. Don't go that. She's like, I got you. I'm all right. So I said, this vertical was the best thing. And I was like, I really don't know anything about this thing. And I think I've blamed my lack of understanding of this antenna on the antenna and bad propagation. One time I tried to make a contact, took it out on a crappy propagation day in the summer, and I'm like, this isn't it. And I'm thinking, you didn't even give it a chance. You don't really understand this. So I think coming up, we need to do a little bit of vertical talking, more of how that works. But anyway, thanks, Todd. Thanks for asking. I made some contacts, South Carolina, I think we did Texas. I worked Steve. Steve was patient enough to help get me in the log, and I kept the QSO kind of short with him because I think he was doing all the heavy lifting. I was on 20. But, in the woods, there's something about that. Being out there, and I'm out with my daughter, and we're sitting there overlooking Dad's peak there, and here comes Steve, like, Whiskey 7 United Delta India. And I'm like, listen, isn't that amazing? We're not plugged into anything. We've hiked into the woods. Like, this is crazy. There's Steve, And I'm sure on the other end, I was like, Kilo!
You heard it.
Yeah.
You heard it on the...
Totally like that, man. But it was a blast. But I thought maybe this is too much. It's too much weight. I'm getting like, I don't think of it. I think it's post hernia, and then, getting into my 50s now, it's like weight is becoming. I think it's just smart anyway. Like, you don't want to go hiking in with heavy stuff. But I'm at a point now where I'm thinking, I'm not taking the rack mount. I'll take it out of the mount. Everything is like, how much am I going to lug? And because coming back up that hill was a mother, So anyway.
You need to make a path there so you can drive out there with your truck.
Yeah, right. That would be great. But
there you go.
What also would help is that 891. I'm like, 891, 891. Do it. You can do it. Yeah, no, it was a lot of, and I can't do it. Just don't do it. And there it is. That was totally, it was Pastor Joe. He's holding the rosary, and I'm like, but Pastor Joe, I don't think it's a proper thing. Do you?
And his head is spinning, and he just do it.
Anyway, we'll get into some more verticals and stuff like that. Maybe we have time for another question. Did we have one that came in? I think there was one more that we can answer. We're pushing up on our podcast listening audience's time. I don't want to keep you guys too long. It's perfect for your commute. To do it this way, maybe we can do a simple one here. Let's see. This might not be simple. Let's see. I have a lightning grounding question. Yep, lightning grounding. That's going to have to wait. How about this one, Steve? Like, that one's a complicated one. What is MUF? M-U-F. Be careful.
Ooh, be very
Easy,
careful.
Ric Flair.
In the
Easy,
70s,
Ric Flair.
in my younger days. Whoa.
Dynamite!
No.
Whoa. Easy, fellas. Easy.
Easy, boys. Settle down. It's maximum usable frequency is what MUF stands for.
Got it.
And basically, it is the highest and it's measured multiple times throughout the day. At WWV is one place. There's multiple places around the world that measure the maximum usable frequency. So you can kind of look up on the propagation report, and you look for where MUF is, and that will tell you. It will display a number. And it will say like 25.5, which means, that's 25.5 megahertz is the highest maximum, or is the maximum usable frequency. And so it's like, 25 megs, bada bang, bada boom. We have 15 meters and 12 meters that is should be open. But be careful because it's based on that location. There is a website out there. I don't have the link off the top of my head. I have it as a bookmark, but it gives you the locations of all the stations around the world, and you can see where the MUF is, and you can kind of watch it. Where here, when you're in the dark, the MUF will be 10 megahertz or even 7 megahertz in the middle of the night here in the U.S., but on the other side of the world, it'll be 30 megahertz. So in the daylight, so you get to see how the propagation is working throughout the world. But in a real basic realm, MUF, not the MUF, is your maximum usable frequency.
There you go. Keep an eye on your MUF, your maximum usable frequency. Your eyes on the MUF.
No.
All right, friends, we want to know what you're struggling with. Are you dealing with anything that you don't understand? Bring it in here to us and let us help you figure it out. And if we don't know, we'll help you go search somewhere. We've got good books. We've got a lot of resources in the community, and we're happy to lend a hand. Now, stay tuned over most of these same stations for post-show coverage of the 100 Watts and a Wire Sunday Evening Net. For our podcast listeners, join us every Sunday, 6 o'clock Central Time, to join the live show. We'd love to have you here in attendance, if you will. Steve, thank you so much for those beautiful antennas. I will be sore as what they call a mofo tomorrow, but I'm going to be sounding good. 7-3 to you, sir.
7-3.
And Scotty, thank you so much for all the work that you do on the show, volunteering. He does the editing. He's got all these things. He's like, look at the software. Make your audio sound good, Chris. I'm like, what's he saying? I suck again? Oh, man. But very valuable. What's he mean? I suck until I hit that big button. I hit that button, then I get the software. Then I sound good.
I got a knob that says less suck, more suck. I just, trying to turn it in the appropriate direction.
I try to live my life a notch above suck all the time. All right, 73 to you, Scotty. Thank you, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for coming around, hanging out. Have a great, safe week. We're heading into December, and we'll catch you live again on Sunday. Take care of yourselves. Look after each other. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 73, everybody.
73, y'all.
To join the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.